Sure that is working. Session's being recorded. Fantastic. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. And this is the next in our series of Sunday night sessions. Tonight's topic is going to be interviewing tips for the virtual world. Certainly a lot has changed, needless to say. It's becoming almost cliche right now, but especially in the employment world. And a big transition that happened very quickly was a movement away from a reliance on in-person interviews to video conference interviews, in the virtual realm. So I am absolutely thrilled here with our employer representative, Nikki from Northwestern Mutual, and I will turn things over to her. Sorry, I realized I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Rich Marshall. I'm with the Career and Professional Development area. I'm a career advisor here. I'm going to turn things over to Nikki to introduce herself, and then we will get on with the program here.
Thanks, Rich. So for everybody watching, my name is Nikki Trepanier, and I am the campus recruiter, campus selection coordinator for Northwestern Mutual. So I am responsible for connecting with students, connecting with faculty members on campus in the Fox Valley surrounding area, as well as the UP, and connecting them with our top 10 internship program that we offer. We work with a lot of growth-oriented, vision-oriented, growth mindset students who are really interested in entrepreneurship and finance and sales and marketing. Our internship kind of hits a lot of different parts of that. So that's what I do. That's what I'm here for. Today I'm going to be speaking on virtual interviewing. I have had quite the experience this year through COVID doing it myself. So I feel like I have a lot of great personal insights, as well as a lot of other just little tidbits and nuggets here and there that will hopefully help you guys as you start to transition and start to interview for your future careers. Sorry if you can hear my kids screaming in the background. That's just my life these days. She's coming around the corner. So a few things. First things first. Sorry, this is my daughter. It's incredibly important to take an opportunity when you have an interview to research the company. I know that we make a point to always ask the interviewee if they have heard about our organization, what they know about our organization. And the answers are typically, you can tell if somebody has taken the time to really look into us, to get to know who we are, get to know our culture. So it's very important. I'm so sorry. We really want to know that you put in the time. Is this what you want? Okay. Are you happy? Okay. We want to make sure that you're taking the time. Can you please relax? You didn't do this all day. Okay. This always happens every time when I'm on an interview too. She just needs the attention. We want to make sure that you're ready to sell yourself, and that's the point on the slide. And it's important that we know who you are as an individual, and we want to know why we should pick you. Our internship specifically is incredibly prestigious and it's competitive. So I don't ever think there's a point when you're in an interview where you shouldn't be talking highly about yourself. That's what you're there for. I think it's important to come in prepared for that, and you can do a lot to prepare for that ahead of time. Always test your technology. We use a variety of different platforms, and I cannot tell you how many times I go to have an interview with a student, and I always remind them to make sure that the platform is working, but they probably didn't check it the first time. Then we get to it and miss out on an opportunity to sit in front of each other in as close as like a normal situation as we can, and we have to do it over the phone. Being able to do it in this virtual setting is, I think, a blessing through all of this, because there's so much more that you can get in the vibe that you can get from somebody when you see them, and you can see their body language, and you can see how they carry themselves. So I think it's really important that you take the time to know whether or not your technology works. And if it doesn't, then let them know and see if you can figure something else out ahead of time. If it does have to come down to a phone call, it is what it is. But then that way, at least you're prepared and it's not a last minute conversation that you're having. This is like very not appropriate for what's happening in my situation right now. Always make sure that the situation that you're in is, there's not really any distractions. There's not any like inappropriate things in the background. I've had interviews with students this year where they have some posters in the background that aren't really putting off a very professional appearance. And we get that you have personal lives. We understand that. But we also, maybe just turn your camera away from your Bob Marley poster. I don't know. So just, think about that. We understand, that life happens. Obviously, like I'm here with my daughter. I have a 5-year-old son also somewhere in my house. We get that, there are distractions and it just happens. And luckily, our organization is very supportive of, knowing that a lot of us have kids and stuff. But as a student, those distractions typically are less. So it's important to be intentional about the setting that you're in. It's equally as important to still dress professionally. You're still technically in an in-person interview, so take time to put yourself together. For, guys, put on a nice shirt, girls put on a nice shirt, a cardigan, blazer, whatever it might be. It speaks volumes, and, you think, maybe your interviewer isn't always noticing these things. We notice everything. That's our job, is to notice everything. So if you're taking that extra step and, putting yourself above in that way, they're going to notice that. And also it's important to practice. I lost my job because of COVID back in this winter. And I was looking for new opportunities. I just graduated with my master's in HR and was looking for new kind of like entry-level opportunities. And luckily, I was able to get in with Northwestern Mutual. And I'm so grateful for that. This company is incredible. But I cannot tell you how long I sat and practiced the way that I carried myself, the way that I talk on a camera to somebody, having answers to questions while still being able to speak authentically in that moment. So it's nice to see when students have prepared, and we can tell when you have and we can tell when you haven't. So just taking that extra time to really go above and beyond really does speak volumes. And then when talking about making good impressions during the interview, obviously testing technology, we talked about that before. Being on the platform a few minutes early is great. I totally understand that technology does not always cooperate, and sometimes people are late, or I'm even late because mine's not working. We get that, but you can avoid some issues if you were to get on early. Again, same thing with the background, kind of look at the proximity. We don't want you like all up in the camera's grill, but we also don't want you so far back that I can't read like facial expressions or hear you. It's important to think about carrying yourself in the same way that you would be if you were in person for your interview. So be aware of your body language, sitting up straight, having eye contact in the best way you can. It's hard on this type of a setting because you kind of want to look at yourself. You should be looking at the person. So just being conscious of that. It's weird for everybody at first. I'm used to it. I do interviews all day. But it can be a very weird process at first. It's important to organize your interview materials. So if you have your resume in front of you, if you have, even some notes maybe about the organization, about the position, you can have the job description in front of you or even pulled up on your screen. That could be helpful for you when you're being asked questions. You can have something to reference. Even communicating that can be really helpful as well. That like, oh, I have my job description up. You said this. Can you tell me more about that? And, engaging in that way and utilizing technology because we do have it. So why not utilize it? Make sure that you're really paying attention. Good job. Make sure you're paying attention to the questions that are being asked. If you don't hear something or somebody cuts out or it's glitchy, just give it a minute. Let them know that I cut out so you can just redo it. Happens all the time, or you lose connection or something. If you do lose connection in the middle of an interview, just email the person. If you have their phone number, give them a call, let them know, rather than just letting it drop off. That can be really helpful. It does happen. It happens all the time. Let's see what else we have on here. Making sure that you are taking the time to humble brag and selling yourself, and making sure that you do hit those points that hopefully you prepared ahead of time. I know, as somebody I do interviews all day, and I like to hear about your accomplishments, and I want to hear why you're sitting across from me, why are you here today, and why I should pick you over the next person that I'm interviewing. I want to know why. I want you to sell yourself, and I want you to sell the best version of yourself. And we want you to be authentic, and it's important to note that, because I have conversations with my college unit director, Tom Duganzik, all the time about how we interview students, and some of them are really well poised and they tell you everything that you want to hear, but we know that that may not be completely authentic to them. And there's a fine line between professionalism and authenticity within your professionalism. So you can be a professional and still be authentic. So I think making sure that you're merging that, and that there's a fine balance between there, because we want to pick you for you and not who you think we want to pick in you, because then in the end, that's not going to work out, because you're still who you are, even if you're a different person in your interview. So authenticity is huge, especially with us in Northwestern Mutual. We just want you to be you, and we want to see that. And then, of course, I touched on, maintaining contact information, a quick email, a quick phone call if you were to cut out, whatever it might be, just so that there's at least some communication if there is something glitchy that may have happened. And then at the end, it's important to close the interview on a positive note. I love it when I have interns, candidates ask me questions. I love being asked questions. I'm asked a lot about our culture, and I love that, because I know that I can speak volumes about the culture at Northwestern Mutual and why it sets us apart from a lot of other organizations. There's a lot of groundbreaking stuff that Northwestern Mutual is doing to be an inclusive and diverse organization, and I love to speak about that. And I love unique questions and questions about not only the organization but myself in my role. How the role may impact you, like day-to-day activities, stuff like that. So I love questions. Sorry, my wonderfully needy child is having a blast. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Typically, the timeline of the hiring process should be discussed in the interview. I know I always touch on it as just part of my process. But if they do not talk about it, it's absolutely important to ask, just when can I expect to hear back? Is there anything else you need from me? It's important to at least have that line of communication open, so you can kind of know just when to expect a call or communication. Allison, can you just relax, please? Thank you. Thank you. And then, of course, oh my goodness gracious. Thanking the team. Sorry, my husband's walking in, and hopefully I can grab my daughter right now. Thank you. Thank you. So thanking the team for their time. I love it when I get an email afterwards from interviewees saying thank you for your time. I really enjoyed it. I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback in the last few months from students, even who may or may not even be interested in the internship, but saying, I really enjoyed the interview process with you, and The positive feedback helps me in my interviewing skills, and I just love to hear that. And of course, just saying bye, smiling, and trying to figure out how to get out of the platform in a graceful manner. Typically, like, I'll exit out and it'll kick somebody out when I do it. But it can be a little bit like weird and awkward at that point where you're both like bye, but you're trying to figure it out ahead of time. So that's one point too that I like to point out. I always ask interviewees to log on, like I said, at some point beforehand so you can get familiar with the platform. So there's not that awkward moment of like nobody, you don't know what to do. And then I'm like, okay, bye. It's just kind of weird. And then, like I said, I love to hear that follow up and that thank you from people. It speaks volumes when I hear back from somebody. Even though I typically follow up anyways, I love to hear back from them. So while you think it may be a little bit of an extra step, it really does speak to who you are and why you might still be a really great fit for this position. So, we have a couple people on, and I wanted to get through that relatively quickly with, my introduction here. Does anybody who's on right now have any particular questions for me?
Certainly with questions, you can unmute, you can put those in the chat, whatever works best for you, but great opportunity to get that firsthand perspective with Nikki.
Yeah, and I think too, when I went through this process, like I said, in like late winter, and I interviewed for a lot of different positions in a lot of different ways. And there was one opportunity that I interviewed for where I had to like record a video of myself like talking about my resume and like answering some questions, and it was just this very unique opportunity. So I don't think that there's any strict way to have expectations of what the interview process might look like during COVID right now. But we, like especially at Northwestern Mutual, we've really seen it as a huge opportunity to be able to sit across from somebody in the comfort of your own home, at your office, at school, or whatever it might be, taking out having to commute, worrying about that, having some more flexibility to meet with people. We've really seen a ton of growth in our organization because of this. So for us, in a way, it was helpful because it expanded our platform and our reach for people. And I love to be able to like sit in front of students and just have a conversation just like this. It's just nice.
The questions here. Otherwise, I guess my question is, are you finding with this movement to the virtual world, in the past there used to be like a phone interview to begin with and then an in-person. Are phone interviews still taking place, or is it mostly just going to video?
Yeah, I think it depends. For us, with each of the different regions that we kind of cover within our agency, at the Fleisner Agency, we each kind of have our own process. I've completely removed a phone screening. I would rather take an opportunity to have that phone conversation with somebody where I can pick up on a vibe, I can see their body language, I can see how they're presenting themselves. Because not only does it give me a chance to get to know them better more quickly, but it also can show me if I need to remove somebody quicker from an interview process that may not be a good fit for a very unique internship that we offer. It's not for everybody. And I feel like it's just, you present yourself differently when you're on a video versus when you're on the phone. And it's kind of pushing people out of their comfort zones, because I finished my master's degree online. And so I was pretty used to this setting before COVID even happened. But I know a lot of students can be very uncomfortable with it, and adults and whoever it might be. So I like it. I think it pushes people out of their comfort zones, and it's just another learning opportunity for everybody.
So I know you've shared some great, perspective and ideas of how to make a positive impression. Are there a few, like I'd say, deal breakers that might come up that would completely, say, rule somebody out?
Yeah, I think for us, like particularly like applying it to our internship, I have a very hard time moving people through our selection process if they can't sit in front of me and have a conversation. I removed what could be a very rigid interview process of strictly interview questions that are, tell me about a time when this happened and you had to use this skill. Like, I don't like to do that early on in our interview process, because I'm really trying hard to get to know somebody, because we can teach you everything you need to know about our internship, but I cannot teach you the ability to communicate and to have empathy and to be able to have a conversation with somebody. So if I have somebody who's not engaged at all in the interview process, it is rare that I move them on. However, I know it can take students some time to kind of break out of a shell. We have a pretty lengthy interview process, and I will move students through if I feel like I might be able to pull them out a little bit. Yeah, if somebody's completely disengaged, if they're not asking questions, then that's kind of my deal breaker. But, it depends. Like, we learn the type of student we're looking for, and we know who we want and who will do well in our internship. So if we don't see that, it's not likely to be a good fit.
Wonderful. The last call here for questions. Any questions from our students? I'm going to put up the contact information here again as well. Then, Nikki, did you have something like a form you wanted to share?
I do. Put it in the chat box, and Rich, I can email it to you as well.
Sure.
I'm not sure if this will show on the recording. But this is just a Google form. It's just kind of a follow-up. If anybody needs to get in contact with me, I'm more than happy to talk about our internship. It's top 10 internship in the entire country. It's a really cool opportunity for students, the right student. But also, I'm more than happy to help with resume development, interviewing skills. I just love to do that in general, so I'm always happy to help, especially at UW Ball.
Wonderful. And here again is on the screen here is contact information with Nikki, as well as with myself in our office. And both of us, we're more than happy to help you. Okay, so always just an email away or contact away. And don't hesitate to reach out regarding that. Wonderful. Well, hearing no other questions here, thank you for participating in this. I'm going to take the contact information out. Thank you so much, Nikki, for your time here on this evening and for your expertise on this. It's very valuable. And for the students, we will continue on with our Sunday night sessions. We'll have another one coming up next week, Sunday at 7 o'clock. All right. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.